So actions can pass values to the functions to instruct to give them the variables for the execution. Now say for example this function doesn't have the value of its own, so instead of test I'll give some other name. Okay, so it is taking the name from a variable. So let's say the variable is str agent name. So str is string, str in small, and then some logical name to the variable, that is agent name. So a in capital, name name in n in capital. So remember guys, this is some of the coding standards which we follow. So why do I emphasize on this every time? Because when the script is really big, it can be really useful to follow the naming convention, because you can get confused. You have used which variables where, and therefore it could be really confusing. So it's advisable to use logical names. So here I can use, and I'm using str since it's a string, so str password. If it was integer, I would have used int. Here I'm using string. Now suppose what, as I said, the action is providing the values to the function. Okay, so this function, the agent name and password is something which I'm getting from the action. So how do I pass these values to the function? So in my action I'll write inside the brackets the name of the agent name and the password. Okay, now what I can do is, suppose I give the name as Ravi comma Mercury. Okay, this is the name and the password combination. So what I'm actually doing is, my action is providing two values, two parameters. The first is Ravi and the second is Mercury. What are these parameters is not yet been decided. Okay, I just know that my action is passing these two parameters in this sequence. First is Ravi and second is Mercury. So when QTP executes this line, it will be calling function login, and it will be passing these parameters, first Ravi and second Mercury, to the function. So where these values will be caught in the function is over here, str agent name comma str password. So what here is happening is, when this line is executed, the first variable Ravi and the first parameter Ravi and the second parameter Mercury both are passed in a sequential manner. That is, Ravi is assigned to str agent name, the variable which is inside the brackets of the function, and second parameter, that is Mercury, is passed to str password. So now what the function can do is, since str agent name has the value Ravi and str password has the value Mercury, it can use these two parameters anywhere inside the function. So in this way, what happens is, action is passing the values to the function and function is not using the values on its own. Now as you can see, I've already assigned str agent name and password to the respective lines. So what I'll do is, I'll again run the same script and see now how the script works this time. So I'll debug from the first line itself, but you know that line number 8 will be executed. I mean, it will start with line number 8. So as you can see now, when the line number 8 is executed, Ravi and Mercury is passed to the function. Now when the script runs line number 8, it is not aware where this Ravi and Mercury will be used by the function. It just passes the value to the respective parameters in a sequential way. So Ravi will go to str agent name and Mercury will go to str password. Now once the line number 8 is executed and the variables are assigned to the respective the values are assigned to the respective parameters, now when I run line number 2, you'll see Ravi has been as you can see on the login dialog box, agent name Ravi and the password is Mercury, and click on OK button. So now what we have done is, we have made this function little bit more powerful. in terms that we can pass the values from the action, calling action, to the function. Like we had seen this behavior early as well, if you remember, wherein we had passed the values from one action to another. So that's how the actions were communicating with each other. Now this time the action and function are communicating with each other. That is, we are passing the value from one action to from a action, from the calling action to the function. So this was about passing the values. Okay, now let's make our function slightly bit more powerful. Okay, now once till now what we did is we used a simple function which worked on its own, independent. But it's fine, we can use this function since it was reusable in different parts of the code, and that's why I created a function of it. The second thing I did is I showed you how to pass the values. We made it a bit more powerful by passing the values from the action, calling action, to the function. The third thing we'll see is the third thing which I'll show will make it again slightly bit more powerful again. That is returning back the value from the function to the action. Now what calling function does is it passed the input value, that is Ravi and Mercury, to my function. Now suppose the function operates and the function wants to communicate back to the calling action. That is, if it wants to say that, yeah, I took this value, it is working fine, or something, anything it could be. It wants to communicate the value back to acknowledge back to calling action. Then how will it do it? Okay, so there's a way to do it. So this is my point number 3. To make action more powerful, to make the functions more powerful, the functions can return the values back to the action.